Delighted to be in India again, previously in the same capacity in 2011, but first visit since the establishment of our strategic partnership launched by President Modi and Prime Minister Tusk in 2024 in Warsaw. I've been to India many times in the past in different capacities, including on family holidays, and this time not only did I have the honor and the pleasure of meeting my counterpart, Dr. Jaishankar, but also of taking part in the world-renowned Jaipur Literary Festival. Poland and India are both dynamic democracies. We therefore have many things in common. The level of trade is not yet satisfactory, but we're working on it. And we hope that the negotiations between India and the European Union on a free trade agreement are concluded successfully to the satisfaction of both India and the European Union, and that the trade flourishes further. We of course discussed pressing problems of our neighborhood, this neighborhood, global affairs, and you can guess what those subjects were. I want to assure you that Poland and India are countries that are interested in upholding the principles of international law. Both of our countries condemn the crossing of international borders either by tanks or by terrorists. Both India and Poland are victims of transnational terrorists, and therefore we condemn it in the strongest terms. Again, I'm delighted to be here again and looking forward to further developing mutually beneficial relations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have time for a few questions, so please introduce yourself, say the name of the agency you're working for.
World. Prior to your visit, you said that India and Poland have different views with respect to the war in Ukraine. Would you, how are they different, and would you say that they got closer during this visit?
Well, of course there are differences that come from geography and history. Poland suffered under the communist yoke in the second half of the 20th century, and before that we were a Russian colony in the 19th century. India was colonized by someone else. But that colonial experience informs our desire for the world to be run on the basis of principle and not the power of the fist. We understand India's different size and position, but we still think it's useful to exchange views because both of our countries desire peace. We hope that President Putin will finally admit that the invasion of Ukraine was a costly criminal mistake and ends this war, which is right now keeping people freezing in Kiev, that in temperatures that go below zero, and a power plant and heating plant being deliberately targeted. So I am confident that India will be among those countries that urge the perpetrator of this act of aggression towards settling it without further bloodshed.
Minister, if I may ask,
Aditya from
Minister,
sorry, I can.
No, excuse me. Hold on a second, please. One at a time, please. Okay. Let's start over here.
Minister, the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar spoke to you at Hyderabad House. In the opening statement, he said that selective targeting of India, be it for the Russian oil or for the tariff, is something that is not appreciated, and there should be no selective targeting. How do you see those comments coming in from your Indian counterpart?
Well, we have sanctioned Russia, but that was because Russia broke the Budapest Memorandum, under which Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, and Russia broke the border treaty between the two countries, actually signed by Vladimir Putin, and Russia broke the UN Charter by invading another country with tanks. So in those circumstances, imposing sanctions, in other words, taking countermeasures by the international community against the aggressor is justified. In many other circumstances, it is not justified. But trust me, in Poland, in Europe, we know something about targeted sanctions now.
Minister, let's take the other side now. That's about the same question. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm Sahil from ANI. Just wanted to know about what was the discussion with your counterpart regarding US tariffs. What was the discussion and any outcome which came out?
We don't like them.
Okay.
Minister, I am Lomas from INS. My question is how does Poland assess the current security situation in Eastern Europe?
Well, Poland has historically been invaded by Russia many times. Russia has taken huge swathes of our territory in the past. You know, I'm one of the European politicians who tried to encourage Russia to be on a convergent trajectory with the European Union. But that requires living in peace with your neighbors. And when Russia started invading her neighbors, that ruins everybody's sense of security. Russia overestimated its capacity to conquer Ukraine and has now been fighting this bloody war for longer than the Soviet Union fought Nazi Germany, and is still fighting in Donbass and is taking huge casualties for tiny slivers of territory. So we hope that sanity prevails in Moscow and that Russia ends this war. But of course that depends on one man. And in the meantime, unfortunately, instead of spending our money on health systems, on education and other desirable things, we are having to spend it on armaments. Poland has the highest proportion of GDP in NATO, 4.7%. We've created, as the European Union, the safe mechanism for retooling our defense industry, 150 billion euros, of which Poland will be the biggest beneficiary. And we have loaned Ukraine 90 billion euros so that Ukraine can sustain its defense for another 2 years. We hope that Vladimir Putin recalculates whether he can afford to continue this war for another 2 years.
Now let's two last questions.
Now, out of old sympathy, I want to hear from the statesman of Calcutta.
Do we have the statesman?
There's no statesman.
Oh, well, please pass on my best regards to the statesman. I used to write for the statesman in the 1980s. My correspondence from Afghanistan was published there.
Minister, over here, but please.
Minister Rudrini Ghosh from Times of India.
Competition, right.
Minister, are you worried about the unfolding situation in Greenland and the seeming split between Europe and the US over Greenland?
Well, as I said at the beginning, we don't believe that larger countries should be allowed or encouraged to take over the territories of smaller countries. So Poland, along with the majority of the European Union, upholds the principle of inviolability of borders and of national sovereignty.
Now let's switch to the left side, please.
Yes, please. Franziska, I'm not German radio and TV.
All right, hi.
Our Chancellor was just here last week, and everyone is hoping to sign the European trade agreement next week, as you said. So what's in for Europe? What is in for countries like Poland and also Germany in this agreement, which took like forever to sign?
Well, you know, when faced with tariffs, the increase in tariffs from some regions of the world, we seek for new trade partners. And India seems to be willing, and I think we need to demonstrate to the world that some regions of the world still believe in free trade, which makes you more competitive and richer. So yes, we all have sensitivities in some industries, that's inevitable. But for example, Indian agriculture and European agriculture are more or less compatible. We don't make the same things. We don't grow the same products. So I think there's a great deal of potential there, particularly in view of the fact that the European Union, by its very nature, by being a confederation with diffuse powers and the checks and balances between the member states, the European Parliament and the Commission, we've now become not only a group of democracies, but a predictable single market. In our system, we can't make the kinds of sudden turns that you can make in other parts of the world, which I think makes us more attractive as a trade partner and also as an investment destination.
And we'll take the last question over here, please.
Minister, Keshav Padmanabhan from the print. What was your discussions on the regional politics? Because I remember you were in Pakistan in October, and this was something that the External Affairs Minister said in his opening remarks. So can you give us a sense of what was discussed in terms of the regional politics and the regional situation that India is facing?
Well, we all have regional concerns, and we all have neighbors, and with neighbors you have opportunities and challenges. So yes, we did discuss it, and as I said at the beginning, on terrorism we are in one mind. And of course we also have concerns. India took part in the Zapat exercises in Russia that we find threatening. So I was very glad that we were able to discuss frankly what's on our minds.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Thank you.